Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, okay. Can you consider this play is a blend from expressionism and realism at the same time?
Yes, yes,
As
yes,
it's
it
a
can.
memory is about flashback, but about the real situation of a normal, ordinary people and
Yes,
our
yeah.
problems.
Yeah, we can, of course. Yes, it is mainly based on flashbacks. That's why I said we are living the memory of inside the memory of Willy Loman. Yeah, I think so. It's kind of, yes, it's not very much realistic. That's why as I've said, you might find some difficulty in the reading the play because it is not very much immediately accessible to you because we have events from different periods of time happening at the same time. I think so.
Yes, because Miller tried to show the emotion of the people or the character experience through the memories and through the real situation.
Yes,
Is that
yeah,
right?
yeah, right. Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. Okay, any other addition or question? Any other thing that you want to add? Can you hear me, please? Or?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay. Other students, I think we have so far
I think
26 students are in the meeting room. So I am interested to hear from many of you. Yes, anyone?
I think the plays are talk about modern tragedy. It's so different from various plays we studied before. We study
Uh,
about the classical tragedy,
okay,
and there is many difference.
how is it different?
In modern tragedy, the writer talk about the ordinary people, their problems, not as a classical tragedy talk about hero as a noble or king or fate like Macbeth or another like
Yes,
that.
good. This is something yeah, that I mentioned at the beginning of the lecture, that we're talking about modern tragedies. And modern tragedies, we have the hero, an ordinary human being, like a worker or a salesman or any man that you see in the street. Okay, so the idea is that in a classical tragedy, um, and this is something that Aristotle talked about in his book, the Poetics. He was saying that tragedy must deal with the life of the great people, of kings or princes or leaders, as we have said. And the reason behind that was that the death of the tragic hero should be something that affects other people. Should be something that other people are affected with. And people are not affected with the death of an ordinary person, only with the death of a great person. And as you have said, that this view was not very much human. It was very aristocratic, that only the life of the great people matters, while the life of the not so great people doesn't matter. And so in modern time, in the 20th century, this idea has has changed, and writers started to see that even the life of the ordinary person matters. And this is, as we said, the philosophy behind the modern tragedy. And we see that Death of Salesman is about an ordinary person. Okay, and later on we see Linda, when she was speaking to her sons, she was saying to them, I'm not saying that your father is a great man and so and so and so, but rather what I am saying is that your father is just an ordinary person, and he has to be respected. He's a human being, okay? And this is what really matters. Whether he's rich or poor, whether he's great or ordinary person, whether he's a king or a salesman, what really matters is that he's a human being. And this is the criterion upon which tragedy should be based. So yes, right. This is kind of the philosophy behind the choice of an ordinary man to be the hero of tragedy. Any other thing?
Maybe it's filled with a flow in characters, as we know about tragedy. A flow in characters in a classical tragedy, it deals just with main characters or protagonists. But in modern tragedy, maybe flow in characters, maybe in society, maybe in law.
Yes, yes, you're right. Okay, so I have another person wanted to speak. Yes, Maha, or who is trying to talk? Or Safa? Yes. Sabah Imad? Okay, students, I have so far 36 participants. So anyone wants to say anything? Anything? Please. I guess you are joining the room in order to be able to ask, in order to be able to discuss. This is the point of having a meeting in Zoom or any other platform. So I really would like to hear from you.
Good evening, doctor.
Yes, okay.
Good evening, doctor.
Good evening. How are you doing?
Uh, Fine, thank you very much. Doctor, I have two things to ask about it. First
Yes.
of all, the mentality of Willie. Can we consider that he is not mentally stable and that because of the flashing coming and going, this is one thing. And his relation with his wife, it was really something I couldn't understand. First of all, her relation with her sons, and then her relation with her husband. Both these things seem that they are not that realistic for me.
Okay, why not realistic?
Usually the mother, she is very attached to her sons, but she is treating them very harshly. She always blaming them that why you are like that. At least she is not kicking them out of the house. And then she is very attached to her husband, and she knows that he is a failure and he caused many problems for the family. And another thing, there is something also about this tragedy. There is no falling of the hero. The hero, he is in his result, whatever he has done in the past. That means there is no falling. He is unstable and he is just seeing the result.
What do you mean there is no falling?
I mean, usually tragedy that there is a hero and the hero is he falls from his glorious to something very bad. He did something very bad or something happened to him very bad. But here, no, he is the consequence of whatever he has done in the past.
Okay.
This is what I'm.
Okay, thank you very much for these two points. Okay, yeah, the first point, yes, you're right. He is not mentally stable. He is, yes,
Yeah.
he is not stable mentally, and there are many signs. Even these hallucinations, his memories, his imagination.
Yes.
He's a man who's living in his own
Is
imagination. He's a man who is not living in reality. He doesn't live in reality. He just lives in imagination, and this is something that
yes.
causes all these
Hallucination.
problems. Yes, and he's a man that he could no longer differentiate between reality and illusion. It's just like someone who lies to himself and lies until he believes that this lie is the truth. So this is what was happening with
Yes.
Willie Loman. And with regard to Linda, Linda's kind of complex character, and we'll see later um, some critics' opinions about Linda. Yes, Linda was harsh with her sons because she is very much attached to Willie Loman, to her husband, and
To her
she, yeah,
husband.
yeah, she's
Yes.
attached to him because she is the one who understands him most. She understands him very well, and maybe even more than he understands himself. This might seem paradoxical, but
Right.
it is
Yes.
the reality. And Linda is not living in an illusion, as Biff might think. Linda
Yes.
knows everything. She knows, for example, that
But at the end of the film, she told him that I cannot imagine that you have
yes,
gone. Yeah, and you will not come back, and she cannot believe that he is not coming back from
yes,
his trip.
yeah, yes.
So she
Get
kept on waiting him.
good. Yeah, she's always waiting him when he's out in trips, yeah, because he travels to other states and to other cities. So she thinks that this might be also another trip, and he's coming back after that.
Yeah.
She understands him very well,
Yeah.
and she understands and she knows that he does not earn any money. That every week he's going to
Yeah.
Charlie in order to borrow $50, and he brings these $50 and
Yeah.
says to her, these are the things that I have got from my work. In reality, he's not getting anything from his work. So, but he goes to Charlie, and she knows that.
Yes.
Okay, and she's the one who knows that Willie Loman was trying to kill himself. He was trying to commit suicide. Okay, and there are many times he
Yeah.
was trying.
He was attending. Yeah, many times. Yeah, many
Yes, and
times.
she does not
Yeah,
show
he
that to
was
him in
trying.
order not to make him lose his self-respect. And she knows that he was trying to
Yeah.
kill himself, but she is not
Very
telling him that
noble.
I
Very
know that you are
noble.
trying to kill yourself. This is very noble of her. I just cannot imagine a human being like
Yeah.
that. Yes, you cannot understand me, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a great person, really. That she knows that when she tells him that she knows his reality, so she makes him think that he can deceive her
Yeah.
in order to preserve any kind of self-respect that he might have, that he might still have for himself.
Yeah.
So yes, and as I've said, there is kind of a speech for Linda when she was saying to her sons, just
Yeah. And
respect your father. I'm not saying that he's a great man, but he's a
respect him.
human
But
being.
ironically,
Yeah.
her son, Biff, the eldest one, he was defending her, and he is
Yes.
angry with his father because of her. Because
Yes.
he saw him in an
Yes.
affair.
Yes. In an
He
affair.
knows that he has
Yeah.
some affair with another woman,
And
and this is also something very ironic.
Yes, and I think Linda knows about the affair. I think that Linda might also know that Willie Loman was cheating on her with another woman, but in spite of that, she still loves him for the person. She is familiar with his falling or failings, and she just loves him for that, just like that. And she knows that he's not a great man, but that's all for her. And with regard to the third question, that he doesn't have falling, like. It's not like Macbeth, for example. With Macbeth, we see Macbeth as
Yes.
a general,
Yes.
and then he becomes a king, and then he falls down, and so on. With because we have a span of
there is
time.
an event. Yeah,
Yes.
there is an event, and
Yes.
then he's going in a trouble.
There is a
Yeah.
kind of span of time that the action is taking for all these events to unfold. But with death of a salesman, all the action is happening in 2 or 3 days, or maybe 1 day. Do you understand
Yeah.
me?
Yes.
That Willie Loman comes at night, he fights with his sons. His son promises him to go tomorrow to Bill Oliver in order to ask him for a job. And Willie Loman says that he's
11:50.
going to Howard in order to ask him to make him an office salesman rather than a traveling salesman. And the next morning they go to, Willie goes to Howard and he fails to convince him. And Biff goes to Bill Oliver and he also fails to convince him. And then he goes to Charlie in order to borrow money. And then they agreed from the previous night to meet in the restaurant. They meet in the restaurant. They fight in the restaurant. They return home
Yes, and they left
at
him.
night, and the
Yes,
next
they
night
left him.
they fight, and
Yeah.
then he goes out and commits suicide. And even, you see,
Yeah.
whatever you say about Willie Loman, he's a failure, he's self-deceptive, and so on. But he was, you see how sacrificial he is. He was trying to kill himself
Yes.
so that his family
Well,
will get the insurance money for themselves and become successful.
Yeah.
This is also a kind of nobility that you cannot expect from every person, that he kills himself so that his sons will take the $20,000, which is the insurance. Okay.
Insurance.
They are
Yes.
not. Yes, they are not going to do that because the insurance company knows that Willie Loman was committing suicide. So it's not just an accidental death, for which he deserves the insurance money. Okay. Thank you for these important points. Other students,
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Other students, if you have something to say, please. Karar, I think, wants to say. Karar, please. You can unmute.
Hello, sir.
Hello, Karar.
Hello. So, excuse me, but I have a kind of commentary on what Selma said.
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say is that she said there's no falling. Okay, there's no falling here.
Because there is no time to, there was falling before,
okay,
but we don't have time to see it. Go on, Karar.
Okay, I think she said there's no falling here. That's what I heard. So
yes.
So what I'm trying to say, there is a falling. There is falling, but in slightly different from the traditional falling than the traditional tragedy.
How?
Okay, we see kings in traditional tragedy.
Yes.
We see palaces. No joking. When someone falls, he just nothing. Okay, but here we see company. We see someone working. So there is falling. Okay, but falling as an ordinary man. We see. For example, when he grew up, we see not being respected anymore. Okay, so he's useless. There is a falling, but slightly different. Okay, there is my point.
Yes, you're right.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Karar, very much. Okay, any others? Any other points that you wanted to raise or questions you wanted to ask? Yes, anything? Okay, I think Abbas wants to say something. Abbas, could you please?
Yes.
Yes, go on.
Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you doing?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I do.
I'm fine. My question is, what is the importance of the title of the play? And another part of can we consider the suicidal that Wally commit is the only real thing that he believes in, or he is the only thing that he is real in his life, that he commit that suicide and everything was illusion, that he was deceiving himself and everything.
Oh, good, good. Yes, about the title, I think it's kind of very straightforward. The word death refers to a tragedy. And as we said, the salesman refers to an ordinary person. And there is another thing that also is analogous to what we saw in Waiting for Godot. We have an indefinite article, a salesman. Okay, so maybe Arthur Miller was trying to say that I'm not speaking about Willy Loman in particular, but rather I'm speaking about a class of people, the salesmen, the ordinary people, the poor, and so on. Okay, so when you make it indefinite,
It could be anyone.
yes, very good. It could be anyone. It is general. Okay, when you make it definite, no, this way you are speaking about a particular person. This is about the title. And about death, this is very clever point, Abbas. Thank you very much, really. Yes, death is the most real thing that we can think of. Okay, and another thing that we can think of as real is pain. And even those people who say that life is not real, or we are living not in reality, we are and so on. So, well, I think one of the things that you can distinguish, in which you can distinguish reality from non-reality, is pain. When you are feeling painful or pain, then this is real. Okay, so yes, death is kind of the culmination of this kind of pain. It's a very good point, Abbas. Thank you very much. Okay, any other
Thank you, sir.
participants?
Yes, doctor.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Okay, Fatma.
As I read that in modern plays and novels, sometimes that
Yeah.
the names have a significant role in the work. Uh, do these names
Good.
of
Yeah.
Walid's sons have any significance?
Yes, yes. In fact, the name Willie is significant. Willie, something, yeah, someone who is willing to have something. Okay, and sometimes I think there's a diminution, يعني تصغير لكلمة William. This is something. And Lowman, it might be kind of blending of two words. Low man, يعني الرجل القصير أو الصغير. Okay, and it is really symbolic of the status of Willy Loman in society, that he is low, is not high man, like for example Howard, or like people who are rich, people who run their own businesses, who don't work for anyone else, people who make money and so on. Okay, so Lowman is, I think, is symbolic of that. And there is another thing about low and high, these symbols in the play. When you see that Willy Loman was kind of disappointed by the fact that in the neighborhood of his house, there are many long buildings that have been built. Okay, so these buildings, kind of his house is dwarfed by these buildings. يعني يبين فشي صغيرة وقزم يعني بالمقارنة مع هاي البنايات العالية. The word happy, the name of his other son, is kind of ironical. Happy is not really happy, okay? And so sometimes we use the opposite in order to refer to that. With regard to Biff, I think it also has a meaning, but in this moment I don't really it doesn't come to my mind really what the word "biff" was meaning, and this is something that we need to search about. But I think yes, the names have significance, have meaning. Yeah. Thank you, Fatima. Okay, I think Aqil wants to say something.
Yeah, hi, sir. How are
Hi,
you?
hello. How are you doing?
Fine. I just have a question, and
Yes.
I'm kind of lost here.
Good.
But
Go on.
you know, we have studied Macbeth previously,
Yes.
and we know it is a tragedy from first class, and so on. And we have studied Waiting for Godot, and
Yes.
we know it is the turning point in the absurd theater.
Good.
But I want to know what is the significant in this play, and what's special in this play we gonna study it in this semester.
Death of a Salesman.
Do you understand? Yeah, I just want to know the significance about this play, because the story and
Yeah.
everything seem so ordinary. Nothing special about there.
Yes, it so seems, but um, when we go on, if we read the text and we see the criticism about the play, it will turn out to be not really ordinary. It's just like Waiting for Godot, for example, when you hear the story, the summary of the story, two men waiting at the side of the road for someone. This is very ordinary, okay? But later on, we discovered many deep meanings in that play, okay? Meanings that we could not expect to be in this in that text, which seemed to be very disorganized. I think with with the Death of Salesman, it will be the same thing. So it's just to be needs some patience on your part in order to be able to discover all these hidden meanings. And I think with the passage of time, you will discover why Death of Salesman is one of the classics of the 20th century.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you, sir.
you are welcome. Any other participants? Any other one? Okay, so any questions, any ideas?
Well, can I ask again?
Okay, you always can.
Okay. I noticed that they focused on the playwright focused on the lighting and music and so on. I felt like that he uses them as not a device, as part of the action.
Yes, yeah,
That's
okay.
right.
Go on, please.
Uh, I don't know if that my understanding to it is right or no, because I see that these things like an action, not just supporting for the action.
Yes, yes, you are right, because as we have said, the structure of the play is very complex, really, because we have people speaking at different periods of time, and so we see conversations that belong to the past, conversations that are belonging to the present, the imagination of a character, and so on. So, in order to distinguish these things and make things clear to the audience, suppose that you are in a stage and you see all the things happening in front of you. So we need kind of um, we need really some indications of what is going on. So he was using the lightings and the music in order to distinguish between these different things. Okay, I think I have Wethbe, if you want to say something.
Yes, hello, sir.
Okay, hello. I think we are also going to be cut because another 14 minutes are running out. And so if it is interrupted, I will open the meeting again, and you're welcome, of course, to join again, please. So go on, Wathbe.
Okay. My question is, can we consider that he's committed the suicide at the end, that he lived the sudden realization because the thing that he believed in the past, he discovered they just are random things?
Okay, you mean that by the end he realized that he was deceiving himself?
Yeah. Yes, maybe.
Maybe that is the case, and maybe that's not, because maybe he arrived to the conclusion that um, he can no longer go on like that. And I think Willy Loman, deep down, deep into himself, he kind of sometimes realizes that, and he realizes that he was deceiving himself. And
Okay.
there are many events that are shocks to him, like when Charlie tells him that Bernard is accepted or is going to the Supreme Court. This is very shocking for Willy Loman, because he was always saying that
For his expectations, yes.
Biff is going to be successful, Bernard is going to be a failure. But then he discovers out of a sudden that Biff is a failure and Bernard is successful. So I think these moments, which serve as shocks to him, they might kind of, just like an electric shock, when someone is dying and you just give him that shock in order to wake up. So I think this is what was going on with Willie. Do you have any other thing with Beth?
No, thanks.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay. I think Fatma Nadam was trying to say something.
Yes.
Go on.
Hello.
Hello, Fatma. How are you doing?
I want to ask you something about the symbols that I see it in the internet. One of them is the distant land, which is Alaska and Africa.
Yes, good. That's a good.
Where is yes, where he it's a symbol for the freedom, that he loved the nature. Yes, and the seed when he it's a symbol for when he fall. When he rise his son, and he's also fall with the growing the seed.
Good. Okay.
So that's
any other question?
That's the
Fatma?
idea. No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Alaska and Africa are very important, and the play was, in one way, was talking about colonialism. You know colonialism, I guess, the Istimar. Okay, and how, for example, these Americans or white men were going to these lands in order to be rich. Okay, like working and exploiting the gold trade in Africa, and was going to Alaska in order to do that. So yes, there are references to this kind of colonialism, and we will have maybe time to speak about that. Regarding the things are talking about nature, I'm not sure about nature, but rather they're about the exploitation of nature. Like when Ben was going there, he was not very much concerned in or interested in nature. He was interested in making money. And even the word jungle. So for him, it is just a jungle. Okay, it's not forest, not plants, not green, and so on. It's just a jungle. He says, I went to the jungle when I was 17 and went out when I was 21. And I was rich, and by the age of 21. Okay, and so even Willy Loman was kind of trying to make his sons believe in the example of their uncle. He was trying always to tell them, be like your uncle, go to the jungle, and so on. And the jungle is also, it's not that positive. And when we speak about nature, we always speak about the positive thing, that nature is freedom, green, health, and so on, so on. So, but here it's not speaking about about these positive things, speaking about exploitation, speaking about the jungle, where, you know, when we speak about jungle and كلام عن الغابة, it is a place where everyone is, you either eat or you are eaten. Okay, so it's just like that. And when he speaks about jungle, it's just like the United States, in which there's cutthroat competition between people. You also in the society, you eat or you're eaten, just like with Willy Loman. So Willy Loman, who could not eat other people, he was eaten, and by other people, by the system, and so on. So I don't think there's about that. And also there is another reference to nature. Willy Loman was saying that around his house it was open. It was open air. There were no buildings and so on. It was nature. There were trees and so on. But now these things have gone, and in the place of them were erected high buildings, and he could not have fresh air because his house is surrounded from everywhere with buildings.
Yes.
Okay, so does that make sense?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yes. Yes, of course.
Thank you very much. Any other question or thing that you might need to ask about in the play? Okay, guys, I am expecting that you are coming or joining here because you want to interact, you want to speak. So I think you have this opportunity to interact and to speak. So try to make the most of it. Any question, anything you want to add? If you want to say anything in general about your study, if you have any concerns, if you have any question about this year, and so on, you are feel free to talk here. And this part of the lecture, of course, I'm not going to post. Okay, I'm going to cut this part, so it's just private. If you want to say anything, so consider that we are done with the play, or with this introduction to the play. If you have anything to say about your study, just please feel free to say it. If you want to speak in Arabic, also feel free. Aqil, you want to say something?
Yes, sir. I just want to know your view about this year and what's our future. Are we gonna pass? Are we gonna stay? And
well, Aqil, in Iraq, no
even if this
one
pandemic
knows the future in Iraq. I don't even know my own future. Yes.
Yeah, I know, but
okay,
the future of this year.
It will go on, and hopefully you will graduate if you study hard, of course. That what I am certain about. So it's not gonna be cancelled.
Even if this pandemic continues.
Yes, as I heard from the minister, he says
continuous 4 months.
Yes, he says we might extend the academic year. So maybe the next year will not start in October, might start in November, maybe December, something like that. This is what I understood from his speech. But of course, yeah.
Okay.
Abbas,
another question.
Aqil, yes, go on. Sorry.